Yo, what's up, guys? Once again, it is time for the Crossover Sports Podcast coming to you, coming to you live on Thursday night, a little bit earlier today, because we have some time issues with somebody not being able to make it tomorrow, so we're coming to you a day early. But there's a lot going on. I'm rocking out with Amina. Amina, go ahead and introduce yourself.
You
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Uh, Yeah, okay. I don't know what just happened to Amina, but yeah, we have a lot going on to this week with uh, with with everything that's been happening and going on in Charlottesville and everything. So we thought we'd come to you a day early. Uh, yeah, well, let's rock out with that as we always do. We start this out with our crossover hot takes. So one of the questions, hopefully when we get more people in here, otherwise it's gonna be a little podcast. I know Matt's still coming in, so he's on the way. But should LeBron and other socially vocal athletes keep quiet and stick to sports? This has come up a lot in the wake of Charlottesville, especially with LeBron James being a lot more vocal than usual. Uh, well, not than usual, but being a lot more vocal since the events happened. And not just him, but a couple of other athletes as well. You had Chris Long and his brother. You had a lot of people being vocal about what happened in Charlottesville because what happened was so egregious. A person lost their lives, and in response to that, you had some people saying that these athletes should stick to sports, and we need to make up our minds if we really want athletes who are robots or athletes that are people. Because we ask these athletes go through a lot. Uh, they're human beings. They're just and there's a person within the athlete. There's the persona on the court or on the soccer field, on the football field, everything else. But there's a person beyond that who feels and hurts and experiences life the way we all do, right? And so, I think asking these athletes to keep quiet is incredibly disingenuous of some people who tell these athletes to be quiet, because these are the same types of people who will be so quick to purport their opinion and get their opinion out there, but do not want athletes having an opinion. It's kind of hypocritical, disingenuous. It's a lot of things. These athletes need to speak up. They need to do what's necessary to get their voice out here and get their voice out there and use their platform for something beyond them. Because there's so much going on, and we definitely need athletes that will speak up and do something, use their platform for something good, and that's definitely what we need. We need in athletics, and you know, uh, outside of that, it's kind of like disingenuous because obviously these athletes, like I said, are not robots. They obviously feel, they obviously experience emotion, and I think that more athletes should speak out. I think a lot of times we lose a lot of people lose vocal athletes because We just don't we just want them to be quiet instead of telling them to speak up. And I feel more athletes should be encouraged to speak up. Now, sure, as they may not be as experienced in the subject matter, but just having that, just having that voice out there, that platform out there, bringing out these issues, it allows for different people's voices and different things to come through, and allows lights to be shined on things that wouldn't otherwise go unnoticed, because these athletes aren't speaking, and it brings a light to what they do and everything else. So hopefully these athletes will speak up more. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna run through this if nobody else comes in. But will Zeke win his appeal? Now, for those of you that don't know, you've been living under a rock. Ezekiel Elliott is appealing the decision. Now, before the weekend started last weekend, it was ruled that that Ezekiel Elliott would be suspended for 6 games for violating the personal conduct policy of the NFL. And basically for domestic abuse, right? And he is the first athlete to really, since Ray Rice in football, to be suspended for domestic abuse. And so, obviously he's appealing, but that he probably, in my opinion, he probably will lose. And I'm taking out my opinion as an Eagles fan. I'm going to be objective here. I definitely think that he's not going to win his appeal, just because there's going to be no new evidence that will help him, in my opinion. And so you'll have all that in the NFL. The NFL isn't really known for saying, "Oh, my bad, we made a mistake, we'll let you play now." They don't usually do all that, and so they're not going to admit they made a mistake. And so Ezekiel Elliott is not likely to win his appeal, and so he needs to obviously I don't knock the man for trying. If he didn't do it, then he didn't do it, and he deserves to have his reputation back. Well, I think it's going to be hard for him. Like I said, the NFL isn't really known for letting things slide and appealing itself, especially because the NFL has had so much egg on his face before about this stuff with domestic violence, the Ray Rice stuff, the Greg Hardy stuff, where they believe their players and they wound up with egg on their face. So I can understand now why the NFL is all like, "Fuck that, we'll believe the accuser and take our chances." It's a serious thing when there is so much going on and so much needs to be addressed. And it needs to be said that domestic violence is not allowed. It shouldn't be allowed. No man should ever put his hands on a woman, or vice versa. And it's very. Now, I have no idea if he did it or not, but it's very very suspect that it dropped in. So those that don't know, in Columbus, this stems from something that happened at Ohio State. So it's very much something that's still ongoing and something that's still fluent. So the case was dropped in Columbus, Ohio, but the NFL picked it up. He was doing other things. He had that bar fight last month. Everything else that he didn't really fight, but he was amongst the crowd and everything. And it seems like Ezekiel Elliott can't really handle style. But an article about this, Watson Sports Take, so you guys should check it out. It's something that he needs to work on. He needs to get a better handle off his off the field behavior, definitely. So I definitely think that Ezekiel Elliott needs some help and needs to do more to be better have better behavior off the field and everything. Needs to monitor himself. He needs to get it together. Definitely needs to get it together. And that's all I'm going to say about it. If you want to know more of the thoughts of my reporting on this issue, check out the article I wrote on it on WatsonSportsTakes.com. That's definitely where you can find all my up-to-date content. And that's where all the stuff will be, all the articles that I write will be published at. Now on WatsonSportsTakes.com. That's just the latest going. It seems like it might be a one-man show today. Next topic. Next question is: Did 45 set the office of the presidency back? In all honesty, yes, he did. Donald Trump had a moment this weekend, a moment that every president has had in the history of this country, which is a time when something so egregious happens, the country is begging for you not to mess it up as president. For a president not to mess it up, to say something that will bring the country together. And those are the moments that make presidents, right? That make or break presidencies. And he came out with an initial statement where he condemned the attacks, but the part of the speech that got the most attention was the fact that he said on both sides, right? And clearly that wasn't the case, because we had one side that was relatively peaceful, and then we had a side that was obviously very, very violent. And it wound up killing somebody. So I don't even know what is going on. I don't even know what's going on. Excuse me. I'm sending Amina the link. I don't know what happened, but I'm gonna send it again. But yeah. So you're gonna have so much. You have so much of this going on, and when he said something, I was expecting him to I wasn't there. I was at a cookout. I was living life, having a cookout in somewhere else. But there's these moments that, like I said, make or break the presidency, and he had a moment here where. Like I said, he could have brought the country together. He could have had a moment. He's doing it before. He has done it before when he's risen to the occasion. Didn't bring any kind of divisiveness. All he had to do was just say, "Listen, I condemn Nazis. I condemn racism. This is not where our country should be." But he didn't do it. He couldn't do it. He couldn't. He instead of instead of allowing the moment to make him. He allowed the moment to break him, and that's where we are right now with him. I was fully expecting a president who has done it before, who could rise to the occasion, and he couldn't. He just couldn't do it, and it was kind of weird because, as I've said, he's done it before. He did it before when an attack happened. He rose to the moment. He was able to do that. He rose to the moment, and he just could not do it. And I just don't understand why he could not do it. But he couldn't do it. And now he has a lot of people. And since Tuesday when he came out and stuck his foot in his mouth again, he's just been in a place where, he set the office back 50 years. To me, at least. He set the office back 50 years. I should say this is my opinion. Has no reflection on the Crossover Sports Podcast and what is going on with that. Or Watson Sports Takes, any of that, it's a reflection of what I think, right? It is my opinion. This is what I think. I think he definitely has set the office back, right? And he's lost, a lot of people said this, he's lost the moral authority. He was defending Nazis last week, and racists and people in the KKK. And, it's ridiculous that we have a president that actually did that, and I really can't fully fathom why that would happen. And you know, I just can't. I just can't do it, man. And you know, there's really nothing else to say about that because you know he set the office back to me. And you know, a lot of times Michelle Obama had a famous quote, right? She said the presidency either makes you or breaks you. And right now, after 7 months, you know, with a couple more months to go, I can say that this presidency is definitely breaking Donald Trump. You know, it's to a point now where you know he comes out with a statement he did today too. You know, there was an attack that happened in Barcelona today where 13 people lost their lives, right? And you know, he came out with the initial statement saying, you know, the United States supports Barcelona. We will be in there at their defense. You know, I'm not reading the quote verbatim, but that's essentially what it said, right? Had a good statement there. But then a couple of minutes later, he turns around, turns over all the goodwill that he has to change the thing, to change the narrative again, and to come out and say, if General Pershing, you know, he killed. What did he say? It was something that's been debunked. He dipped bullets in pig's blood and killed Muslims and stuff. And the stuff is ridiculous. Like, I don't understand what is he tweeting? What's the information that he gets that none of us sane people get? But it's ridiculous that you know you can peddle stuff like that and get away with it. He shouldn't be able to peddle stuff like this. Like this does not and should not stand. Like, this is not something uh not something that you know. This is not something that you know it should ever happen. You know, and and I should and you know it's really breaking everything. Excuse me, I'm helping Amina get back in here. Apparently, the system kicked her out. I don't know what happened. No, so it might just be me by myself because Amina got kicked out. So bear with me a minute, y'all. She really has stuff to say about this too, and Matt's supposed to be coming in, but he's washing his hair. So, but you know, there comes a time where you know, as a people, we have to really just say and come together as a people because what's going on now is making or breaking this country. We have a president that thinks that is okay with well, I shouldn't say he's okay, but he's good with allowing people to express themselves. You know, he said that there was violence on both sides, which we know was not true. He's done so many things that you know you hear it in the news, and you're all like, hey, man, you know, he does a lot of worrying stuff. And I really do hope, you know, because he is the president, he's going to be president for 3 years unless he resigns, everything, or something happens that takes him out of the presidency before 2020. So he's going to be our president, but he has to do something. He has to change. He has to mature. And I feel bad saying that about a 71-year-old man has to mature into the presidency because it just feels weird saying that for a 71-year-old man who should be mature and should know better. But you know it. And it's ridiculous that you know this is even happening. Uh, Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to work on. Try to work on the mean on something. And that is just it's just so ridiculous and everything. How this stuff happens, and I can't stress it enough that this is ridiculous. So bear with me, y'all. If it this gets to dead air, I'm trying. Hopefully, it won't get to dead air, but I'm trying to help Amina get back in this thing. So I can't. I can't do it no more, man. A lot of people say give him a chance, but he's proven right now that he's putting egg on the face of anybody that voted for him, that said he's gonna change. The office will change him. Obviously, the office has not changed him. He has no legislative victories and everything else. He is a very immature 71-year-old. That feels weird to say about a 71-year-old man, but he's got to do better. He's got 3 more years in office. He has got to do better. Like, really, he has got to do better. And I don't know what it's going to take, but he's got to do better, because at this point, with the way loose lips sink ships in countries, with the way he's so loose with what he says, and how he just says what he wants to say, I think that there's no consequences to it. No, it doesn't work like that. He has to get it together. And that's just how I feel about it. Like, he's got to get it together. I don't know what else it is that he has to do, but he's got to get it together. And Matt's coming on in a minute, so thank you. It won't just be me in here doing stuff, but I can't, man. And there is so much going on, and it's not just what happened in Charlottesville, because I really hope it doesn't happen, but I'm kind of thinking that there might be more Charlottevilles, because of what's been happening. The rise, and this has been a trend since Donald Trump got in office. A lot of people may have been missing it and stuff, but this is a trend that's been happening. We've steadily seen an increase in hate crimes. Hate crimes have been going up and stuff, and that's what Jeff Sessions may not want to label it that, because the investigation's still ongoing. But I'll say it. This to me is a hate crime, because this guy, this 20-year-old, got behind the wheel with the intent to harm somebody, and actually did it. He took away a 32-year-old woman who was just practicing her right to protest, her right of assembly, and she died practicing her right to assembly, trying to speak up for oppressed peoples. And just that alone, if that doesn't get you, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, if that doesn't propel you to want to do something, then you're not human. I'll say it, you're not human. It's ridiculous that we in 2017, I as a late 20s African American male in Philadelphia have to say I fully denounce Nazism, neo-Nazism, racism, and all the isms in this country based on this. That should not happen. We should have a leader who can speak clearly, who can write clearly, who can bring people together. And I know. Donald Trump got elected running a campaign based on xenophobia, racism, some sexism, and everything else. But it's ridiculous that this stuff has to happen. There will be more Charlottesvilles if we don't get it together, y'all. Over statues of traitors. I don't care what the good they did before that, but they are traitors. That's the people who we are glorifying, traitors. You know that? Traitors to the country, traitors, people who wanted to secede, all because of slavery. That is what we are. worshiping and propping up. And you know, whatever you feel about it, that's it. That's all. That's all. The Confederacy was built on the fact that slavery, Lincoln was about to free the slaves, and the South didn't want to lose their economic advantage, right? Because this is why the South has been set back. It never recovered from the fact that it lost the free labor of African Americans. And you know that is what it is. And you know, if you don't believe me, at Kyler W. Watson, you want to argue with it, please at Kyler W. Watson. I'm always free. I'm always free to have a good argument with somebody at Kyler W. Watson. But you know, we are in this dangerous part of the world where our president can literally start a war based on whatever he says and people misinterpreting it. He has to get it together. He really does. He has to get it together. So I think Matt's about to come in. So that shall be good. That should be good. That's coming in. That's coming in to help out with this. Nina unfortunately was kicked out, and apparently she can't get back in. That's unfortunate. Sorry. Matt's on his way in. Try not to go too deep down the rabbit hole a little bit, but yeah, basically he's got to mature. Again, it sounds awkward saying that about a 71-year-old man. He's got to mature. He's got to watch his language. They have to get a better handle on him going rogue. He shouldn't be able to go rogue. You know, they have to get a better handle on him. On him. You know, as somebody with a communications degree, it's all about message, and they have not gotten their message down, and they're 7 months into this. You know. So moving right along to our next topic. Is the NFL setting up a dangerous precedent by believing the accuser over their players? Yes, they are. The NFL is very much setting up a dangerous precedent. Now, this is all based on how the NFL is treating Ezekiel Elliott, and they're taking the evidence, obviously, that they already have, and they've acquired everything. They have some evidence that wasn't released to the public, and it's gotten the NFL, it's got people into trouble. Excuse me, because it basically turned into this is what it's always been. It's been a he said, she said. She is saying that Ezekiel Elliott abused her, and Ezekiel Elliott is saying he didn't abuse her, and everything else. And it's turned into a he said, she said, and it very much is weird, and it's getting weird to. Oh, Matt's here. Good. Hey, Matt. Yeah. I don't know what. I shocked through some of it, but you can go back. You can go back in. So I'll just let you start. So did 45 set the office back? Matt, I can't hear you, man. Man, I'm having a hard time. A lot of static. All right. So while Matt gets that together, uh, you know, uh, yeah, I don't know what's going on today.
Oh,
There you are.
alright. I'm trying to do 3 things at once here.
All right. So which one do you want to go? You want to start over on the hot takes, or do you want to just start at 45?
What did he do? What didn't he do?
We can start at 45. Whatever you want to do.
What 45 didn't do?
Okay. Go ahead.
Let's start from this. Number 1, to have a so-called president be not doing, just pretty much missing on a softball, a very softball situation that, we don't. We, as good Americans, we're not going to condemn this, that, and the third. At least if you want to show face on anything, it would have been this. But literally, this man just pretty much, again, showing his butt. He has shown his butt time and time again, and even before President 45 campaign Trump was, he had the opportunity then, when David Duke was putting in his, what's that thing called? Was putting in his support for Trump. He had another opportunity. He had that golden opportunity to say, "Nah, we're not. I don't want your support," or something of that magnitude. But he did not. So once again, he showed his butt and showed America who and what his true colors really are. So now let's fast forward to Charlottesville. And I'm past angry and I'm past pissed. It's not even apathy that's setting in. Apathy is very dangerous as far as I'm concerned. But I'm more on the end of, this has got to stop. This has got to end. And one group of white supremacist supporters use the Detroit Red Wings logo as one of their where's my hair again? As one of their as one of their logos, and even the Red Wings was going to sue them for misuse. Like even they put out a statement faster than Trump. Tiki, the one that do the torches, Tiki Torch Corporation, they even put out a statement faster than Trump. And you're telling me this man who basically, this was for anyone, this is a layup. This is a softball, soft toss heave of a question. Not question. Softball toss heave of a situation where, if this is the time to do the right thing, this was it. And he did not. It is unfortunate that we are in this position. It is unfortunate that we are here. It is unfortunate that we are that people aren't getting the picture. It's unfortunate. And this man, I'm not sorry to say this. This man should be removed. Should be removed. Plain and simple. So, for anyone that thinks let me try to get my head together. Overall, this madness has got to stop. It has to stop. now. That's where I stand on it.
All right, man. And I'm gonna give you another opportunity to talk about Ezekiel Elliott. So, is the NFL setting up a dangerous precedent by believing the accuser over their players? Go ahead, Matt.
When did the NFL become judge and jury? When did it become say, you know what, we're gonna go deep into the files, the recesses of people's past, and judge them by it? When did we? Where? This is a league this league has gone so out of touch. You know, you want to. I don't know what they're looking for. I don't know what they want, honestly. Y'all forget, you are still the NFL, the National Felons League, and you're going to go as far back as once college days for what? I think if that matter is closed, the matter is closed legally. If it was closed years ago, leave it alone. The NFL has no business being the moral police. That's not their job. Their job is to run a professional football organization, which is a business. Yes, their job is they should protect their brand and their name and everything else, and rightfully so. However, at the end of the day, you will not besmirch these people's past like that, and to put it on full blast. If to put it on full blast and on full display is literally by far the most egregious act anyone could ever do. Now, everyone ever do. Now, even if I was an employer, I really honestly do not believe looking at one's Instagram, Facebook, or other social media just to get a bigger background on their lives. If you really want to find someone who is pretty much God, you're not going to find them. If you're looking for someone who is an angel, a saint, if you will, good luck. It's few far in between, as far as I'm concerned. And many may be talented. I will be the first person to tell you, you're looking for a needle in a haystack. It's just no. So what the NFL did is an egregious act, in my opinion. The matter is closed legally. The matter was before we got drafted. We were still in Ohio State. So, I mean, unfortunately, it happened to the Dallas Cowboys, so that's no shock there. So, with that, sorry about that. With that, look, there is no reason. There is literally no reason for the NFL to dredge up people's past. And if y'all gonna keep doing this, Roger Goodell should not be the commissioner.
Let me just say, obviously, I don't feel that the NFL should be digging into people's past. But to answer the question, Matt's initial question, I know it was rhetorical, when the NFL thought they could become judge, jury, and executioner, I think it goes back to somebody who the NFL doesn't really like to mention and has made sure is never associated with the game of football again, Ray Rice, right? Now, let's just think about this. The NFL had egg on his face when it initially suspended Ray Rice for, what was it, 2 to 4 games, I think, a couple of years ago. And when they suspended Ray Rice, right, Couple weeks later, that video comes out. We all see it where he punches his fiance and she's knocked out in the elevator, and he's dragging her out. It looks like he's dragging a dead body and everything, because that's how strong he is. Even though he's short by NFL standards, but he's still strong because he's a man. And there's that was really when the NFL thought they could become judge, jury, and executioner. I think they feel that they had their test case with Tom Brady last year. Nobody really stood up for Tom Brady. We like to say in the NFL, we talked about this on this podcast before, sometimes the NFL does things to see how strong people will come out against it. And if nobody comes out against it the next time, when they do something truly egregious, as Matt would say, even though, to be honest, Ezekiel Elliott has been asking to be punished with the way he's been behaving all summer off the field, to me, right? And he really is. He's a great player. Never take that away from him. Like I said, this is the first time, I think I mentioned this to Matt and Trey off air. This is the first time that the NFL has gone further than the law, right? Like I think this is something that Ezekiel Elliott isn't used to, right? And unfortunately, Zeke is a victim of circumstance. He's a victim of Ray Rice getting away. Basically, even though he didn't really get away with it, but he's a victim of Ray Rice getting away with the NFL having a light punishment. Even before that, Josh Brown, a white guy, he had a journal and everything. It turned out he was on the NFL team, and the NFL never knew that he was beating up his wife because the Giants kept it quiet. So again, the NFL ended up with egg on his face, not because of anything it did on its own, like the Ray Rice situation, but because the Giants, that great guy, John Mara, or whichever Mara it was that owned the team and had something to say about Colin Kaepernick, had a domestic abuser on his squad, is going to talk about morals. But I digress, right? He is this Ezekiel Elliott, he did what he did. I wasn't there. As I've said, nobody deserves to be domestically abused. You are less of a man. I don't care who you are. You are less of a man if you ever lay your hands on a woman. I don't care. I don't care what her race is. I don't care what she did. I don't care if she was talking. She was talking and disrespected you. If you ever put your hands on a woman, this is just crossover PSA. If you got a problem with it, at Kylan W. Watson. No man should ever hit a woman. I don't care what she did, right? And the next thing on that. So that's what it is. I know Matt was probably trying to.
It was Wellington Mara.
Huh? But
Wellington Mara.
Okay.
Wellington Mara owns the Giants.
All right, thank you. It was that for real. It was them circumstances, the Ray Rice situation, the Josh Brown situation, and the Greg Hardy situation. That's really what allowed the Eagles. I'm watching the Eagles game, not the Eagles, the Cowboys. That's what made the NFL do what it did, right? Because it was allowed to do it with Tom Brady. It was given a court order that it could do it. And in this matter, it can do it because of Ray Rice, Greg Hardy, Josh Brown. I yield the floor back to you, Matt. Matt, you got anything more to add? Matt, you there?
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to do something. Do I have anything?
Yeah, do you have anything else?
Not well, a little bit. I will say this though. You hired these people. Basically, they're contractors, really, by whatever. But they are not. I mean, they are assigned. They are employees of whoever it is they're employees of. And then you're going to go digging for whatever. I mean, if it happened, if it happened beforehand, it happened beforehand. Now you can legislate after the fact. Like they're in the NFL now. They have contracts. They're under payroll, and you can You can quote unquote legislate that way after the fact. You can't legislate, when they're basically in diapers. You can't do that. It's not me. How would you like it if your employer, you sign all the proper documentation, even though he says, everything he says true in this and the third to the best of your ability, and pretty much it is true, and then they still look at your past anyways, that, oh, you know what, we saw this picture, we don't want you working for us. To me, that's just downright silly. It's downright stupid. You already hired this. You already did your due diligence, and you brought them in anyway. For the most part, a model citizen, and still you're gonna fire him anyway. Yeah, okay. You can, but after the fact, pretty much, okay, he's already employed. This person's already employed, and acting like a poo-poo head, and whatever have you. Then, by all means, you can suspend that person because of, but not prior to.
Yeah, I fully get your point, Matt, and I fully understand it. Yes, you're right. They shouldn't be able to do this, but as I've said, unfortunately, they're able to do this because of the four major sports, as we've said on this podcast numerous amounts of times. The NFLPA is very weak, and they allow this stuff to happen. The NFLPA, you can say, spent a lot of capital on Tom Brady last year, and a lot of capital on different things. Unfortunately, I hate saying it, them's the breaks. So Matt, going back to Virginia, right? And I know we said our piece, and if you don't feel like answering, we're on our next to last Charlottesville question. So, was Charlottesville just the beginning? Go ahead, Matt.
In my heart, I hope it's not. But to see that these white supremacists and neo-Nazi groups are now more emboldened to say and do whatever it is they want to say and do because of who's running the country right now is very scary. You have to remember this: when Barack was the president, the racism has fermented on the low. It has fermented on various accounts to where as though hate groups literally has increased. It has increased. It's not never mind, the uptick of hate groups towards Muslims, which, by the way, is based off of pure ignorance, but is an uptick in white supremacy because of Barack Obama being the president. The fact that their quote unquote heritage or their way of life or whatever have them is being for lack of a better term infringed upon. Last time I checked, nobody's rights were infringed. This Obama has pretty much done. He's been the upright leader that he was called to be, and then some. Though personally, I disagreed with a lot with some of his policies, which does include immigration. Which, in my view, the immigration, the way he handled it could have been handled differently. It could have been handled better. But it is what. Dealing with what you're dealing with is what it is. But I believe it could have been a lot better. Could you have done better? Could Obama done more for us as black folk? I think so, particularly in the last 2 years of his presidency. which it is what it is. But at the same time, I can understand he couldn't. Like, you can't go pro-black because you're taking care of. Because black people is only 14%. African Americans are 14% of the population, and out of 330 million Americans, 14% is basically 45, roughly 45 to 50% of the population. No, 45, about 40. Don't quote me. You're roughly around 20 to 40 million Americans. That's the black population. So, sugar. So, with that being said, So, with that being said, I hope there's not another Charlottesville, but they're getting more and more bolder. They're getting more and more bolder by the day, and it seems as though this is Civil War 2. This is brewing to be another World War 3, the Civil War 2.0, because it seems as though they forgot that the America that they once knew does not exist. And I was also reading an article, the fact that most of these white supremacists are pretty much going back to the ways of the 1600s, where white men ran the show and women barely had any rights at all. So tradition has to be squashed, and it has to be squashed today. If not, this country is in a whole lot of trouble, if not in serious trouble, because it seems as though we try to be leaders of the world, but unfortunately, we have problems at home that's as old as this country, if not older. So I hope there's not another Charlottesville, but for the way it looks, there's no. And the person who's running the show it doesn't look like it's going to be an end anytime soon, based on who's running this country.
Yeah, man, I share my colleagues' thought. We all hate saying it. As African Americans, it used to be said. Our president, basically, as Matt said, he missed a layup. He got rim blocked when he was going up for a wide open dunk. He had a chance to have a highlight of his presidency. This would have been a highlight. This would have shut up all the people who would have said, or at least for a day or two, it would have shut up all the people who said, Donald Trump's a closet racist. Donald Trump got a problem with minorities, right? But no, he couldn't. He couldn't do it. He couldn't rise to the occasion, man. And it's a shame saying that, but he couldn't do it. And I hate saying it, and I won't go long. Matt covered most of it, but he as somebody said, I've said this before off air, but I'll say it here, I think for the first time. President Trump, 45, is the divider in chief. He ran and got into office off of the support of, I think they said 36% of the country. The majority of the country, and voted for Hillary Clinton. And it's only via the Electoral College. And this burns him up every time, but it's only via the Electoral College that Donald Trump is president. And this right here, man, he had an all right statement before, right? And all he had to do on Monday was just say, I denounce racism, I denounce white supremacy, I think the country should come together. And I said this earlier in this podcast, Matt wasn't here yet when I was doing when the show was solo for a little bit. But he had an opportunity to bring the country together. And I keep hovering on this Michelle Obama quote, where don't quote me on what magazine it's from, but she said the presidency either makes you or breaks you. And as of Monday, it was breaking Donald Trump before, but it broke him beyond repair when he went off on Monday, where he showed his true unscripted self. And it put egg on the face of every, I'm going to try to be nice to y'all and I say what I really want to say. Every person who voted for him, whether you were a purported racist, a closet racist, whatever. And I know people voted for Donald Trump for different reasons, and it wasn't all race-based. I understand. But he put egg on the face of everybody who voted for him, everybody who ever supported him, and whoever is a person who is of sound mind. I put it like that, right? And you actually, in my opinion, has no reflection on Matt, has no reflection on this podcast, my opinion, at Kyler W. Watson, right? This is what he did. He put egg on the face of anybody who ever supported him. Ever. And I mean, now, 10 o'clock, August 17th, EST, 7 o'clock, PST, he put egg on the face of anybody who ever, and now, later, in the past, ever voted for him. And it's a shame, man, that we actually have to say, that even a little podcast like this actually has to say, yo, we don't support Nazism, we don't support racism, right? But that's where we are, and that's the problem. The presidency was done damage irreparably. And just to answer the question, stay on topic, there'll be more Charlottesvilles, because we've seen, I think Matt said this earlier, hate crimes are on the rise. You know, they've been on the rise since the man got in office in January. Hate crimes are on the rise. And now he's emboldened them. I tweeted this. He's emboldened them. There will be more. The white nationalists are reportedly going to be in Boston this weekend. You know, that's as close as they're going to get to, I think, us. You know, they might come to Philly. They might think they can come to Philly. We'll see. But, you know, that is where we are. They are emboldened. There's going to be more Charlottesvilles. I hate saying it, but there will be more. Matt, do you have anything else to add before we move on?
No.
All right, moving right along then. All right, Matt, this is the last Charlottesville question. So does what happened in Charlottesville lend credence to our buddy Colin Kaepernick's protest? Not a real buddy, just to be clear.
Well, I think I'm gonna bring this up later. It's funny to where we tell our athletes what we should and should not do, and yet they got all the money and more power than we do because they have a bigger platform to do it on. Now, bear this in mind. Why should, at the end of the day, that man is a quarterback of the NFL of whatever team I hope he gets on. He's an NFL quarterback, and by him being an NFL quarterback, he's using that platform. He's using what he feels is the right thing to do. Now, let's back up a little bit. Let's go to a different case. D'Angelo Williams. He always wears in his locks pink tips. His tips are pink because his mother actually did pass away from breast cancer. Now, the NFL got to make their money by supporting breast cancer and all that nonsense. Breast cancer research awareness, like, how much more awareness do you need for breast cancer? I mean, it's like there. I mean, not to take that away, but I think after you can wear pink for like a week or two, After that, you gotta go back to your standard uniform. D'Angelo, not so much. He pretty much took it a step further and personalized it because that was something that's near and dear to him. Albeit he got a fine out of it, but which is about $5,000 per game or something like that. I can't remember, but he got a fine out of it. No one batted an eye because it's a worthy cause. You cannot. Chris Long even made a statement saying his feelings about what happened in Charlottesville, and he's from Charlottesville. He's from there. Our athletes. I mean, we want our athletes to be role models and everything else, but you can't pick and choose how they should be role models. It's just not right. It's not fair. Now, everyone make Mr. Kaepernick an excuse. It's the worst thing you can do. In fact, once again, the NFL has failed the moral test. Trying to control. You should do this, but you can't do that. Mind you, and let's put this on my Facebook. The standing or the coming out of the national anthem, that was not mandatory until 2009. I mean, that was mandatory, but it wasn't, come on, it wasn't really a thing until 2009. It really wasn't. No one really batted an eye. And then all of a sudden, it's now the new standard. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, we gotta be better. We have to be way, 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 way better than this. Way better than this. Bottom line. So, as far as Cap is concerned, honestly, this is where I stand on this. If anybody wants to sit or take a knee or have your fist in the air because of what's going on in Charlottesville and anywhere else in this country, by all means go ahead. But you know what? People will feel very uncomfortable about it, and that's fine. And you should be. If you're uncomfortable about what's going on, then they've done what they're supposed to do. They're bringing about an awareness. Like I said, they brought awareness to breast cancer and vets and everything else with their camouflage gear and everything else. Wouldn't it be right if it's not? Wouldn't it be right and also fair the fact that they're bringing up an issue that's affecting them personally, even though it may not affect you in a very personal way. At least empathy is in order, and I think this country has lost its empathetic touch because we pick and choose what we can be empathetic about. So honestly, we cannot choose to be what to be empathetic about, but we must understand where each one's coming from, and not say, well, football should be separate. I'm sorry, boys and girls. To some people, some don't feel that way.
Once again, we're on the same wavelength. We cannot. It does add credence to Colin Kaepernick's protest because Charlottesville. What happened in Charlottesville was what happens when symbolism is taken too far. Now, we haven't touched this on this podcast yet. Maybe, because there's only two of us here, maybe next week we'll touch on, do we think statues representing the Confederacy should stand or not? We're not going to be on that topic right now. But Charlottesville is what happens when you take symbolism too far. First off, that statue shouldn't have been there. At Colin W. Watson, right? The Robert E. Lee, I don't care the good he did before, lost his privilege to ever have his statue stand to be honored when he decided to fight for the Confederacy, right? And there is too much of this, right? So they wouldn't have been there. Okay, they might have been there anyway, but I don't think that what happened there. And I'm not trying to lay it all on the statue, but the removal of the statue was the reason that Richard Spencer, David Duke, and all of them were there in the first place, right? To protest the removal of that statue, right? And and an argument can actually be made. A logical argument can be made that would not have happened. That Heather Heyer, say her name, would not have lost it. Yes, that's not just for African Americans that die due to police brutality. That's for anybody that loses their lives unjustifiably, right? Heather Heyer would probably not have lost her life if we had the same rule that Germany has, where they say there are no schools named after Nazis, no statues to Hitler or his generals, nothing, right? Only in America do we decide that, let's honor something that pains a very, very large portion of our population, and let's just have them go to schools named after Confederate generals. Let's have Confederate generals in the downtown areas of some of the most major cities in this country. Only in this country can that happen. Should never happen, right? And that right there, that's one. But it does increase Colin Kaepernick's protest. Because Colin Kaepernick, I think a lot of people forget, Colin Kaepernick said that he will not stand for the anthem until America starts living by the ideas that are stated in that anthem, right? And here's an example. Charlottesville is a prime example that America is not living up to what it purports to advertise in the national anthem, right? All people equal. No, you can see that in how we sentence people, right? No, are all people equal? No, right? We have different sentencing for people? African Americans serve longer sentences than white people for a lot of different things. We have statistics on this, right? And are we really living what we purport in the thing? And no, we're not. Charlottesville. There will be more Charlottesville. As I said this earlier in the podcast. Unfortunately, I hope it doesn't happen, but it looks like it will. And we are not living by that. And so everything that happened in Charlottesville, even though it didn't have anything directly to do with Colin Kaepernick, it talked and it is based around what Colin Kaepernick said. Colin Kaepernick said, "We're not living to our ideals that we advertise in the national anthem," right? And that is true, right? I just laid out to where it's sentencing, right? It's true that in some places America is failing in being able to be the country that it's advertised to be, right? And that it just, to me, it lends credence to Colin Kaepernick's protest. And I think that now, and we're gonna get to this later, but I think now, based on what happened in Charlottesville, now there's going to be a movement to more woke Kachi entity for athletes now, led by LeBron James, led by Colin Kaepernick, led by Chris Long and the Long family, and more athletes will speak up now because they need to use their platform, because America is not living up to the ideals that it advertises in the national anthem and America the Beautiful and all the songs that we sing. And I love this country. But hey, Trey. And I'll say that with all my heart. There's a powerful scene in Blackish, right, where Dre talks about they did an episode. Some people who haven't seen it, you should definitely check that episode out. Where it's after the election and Dre's in his place of employment. He says he's always loved this country, right? And that's where he talks about this is the first time that America, that a lot of you are feeling what African Americans feel a lot. Stuff don't go our way. We don't get what we want, but we put smiles on our face and hope it gets better. And I'm probably not doing that scene justice, but check it out, man. It's powerful, and it talks about the African American experience, right? And yeah, to me, it does lend credence to Colin Kaepernick's protest. Because Colin Kaepernick's protest was about is, and he said this when he started it, he's not going to stand for the anthem until America starts living by its ideals that it purports to show in the national anthem, in America the Beautiful, and all the other songs that we sing, Yeah. So, Trey, we're on the Charlottesville, the question of does what happened in Charlottesville lend credence to Colin Kaepernick's protest, but you could also talk about your feelings on Charlottesville and everything else. So, or do you need some time to get your thoughts together? But you can go ahead.
I'm good. Excuse the background noise. I'm in the car. This whole Charlottesville thing is, this is a big mess, right? Donald Trump took forever to respond. When he finally responds, he says on many sides, and then I think you have to be fair. Antifa is not they are not non-violent. However, you can't compare what they did to what these white supremacists / Nazis did. There's video proof of people literally talking about killing, the people who are protesting the protest of taking down the Robert E. Lee statue. And so Donald Trump takes forever, blah, blah, blah. He says on many sides, and he finally comes out after being pressured by the media and the whole Republican and all the Republicans and the Democrats in the White House. Everybody was probably telling him, or president besides Steve Bannon was probably telling him, you need to make a statement. So he makes the statement, and it's the same statement. He just takes out the many sides part, which boggled my mind. And not only did he basically use the same statement and just take out the many sides part, walked back his statements because, he began talking about, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and on their statues. And ironically, yes, these statues are being taken down overnight, literally. The night after all this ensued, or, after his speech, I think Baltimore took down a statue of where, they took down a statue. There's been a number of other statues that have been taken down prior to his speech. But as far as the connection to Colin Kaepernick, I remember back when we first had this conversation, Colin, the reason why Colin Kaepernick is kneeling is not to show disrespect to America. I'm sure he loves living in America. I'm sure he, I don't know how he grew up. Did he grow up in a poor household, middle class? Was he? I'm not sure. But he doesn't seem, and he has not portrayed, nor showed or said to anybody, for that matter, publicly, that he hates America or wishes that he wasn't born in America or wishes that he weren't American. By protesting the national anthem was twofold. It was, the disenfranchisement of Black America, as well as how America or United States seems to say, they say one thing, politicians say one thing, but their actions say another. In regards to racial relations, we say that we're progressive. We want to fight for equal rights, all that. Yet things like Charlottesville still happen. Things like Ferguson and Baltimore, Dylan Roof. All these things are still happening, and people want us to get over racism, and Black Lives Matter is racist, and it's just that's Colin Kaepernick was protesting by not standing up and not even sitting down. He was just kneeling. He was protesting the hypocrisy of what America stands or United States stands for as of now. And if you can't see the hypocrisy, I mean, maybe you need some glasses, because it's very clear. It's right in front of your eyes. Is there some media nonsense going on where people are kind of on both sides making things look worse, or kind of trying to favor the other side? Sure. I mean, that's always going to happen. But it's right in front of your face. You know, there's violence right here in America. And it's not foreign terrorism. It's coming right here. It's right here in Charlottesville, in the United States of America, on our soil. Not coming from the people that Donald Trump wanted to kick out of the United States. Not Muslims, not Mexicans. European white people. Now, I don't hate white people, but the violence is coming from people on our soil. It's coming from our soil against, against other fellow Americans. And it's nobody understood. And the ironic thing is that it's not just black people, it's Asian Americans, it's black people, it's Mexicans, other minority groups. You got a group in West Virginia, labeled as, I think they're called Appalachian. They're white, live in West Virginia, dirt poor. They're considered a minority. And and that's what Colin Kaepernick is protesting. He's protesting the disenfranchisement of America in terms of black people, and he's also protesting the hypocrisy of the United States saying one thing but doing another. And you said it, Colin. This whole thing in Charlottesville definitely gives credence to the point he was trying to make. I mean, crazy to think that we've got 19 injured and 1 dead because people think that they're superior. I mean, that's just shameful to even think that that's going on right now. You would like to think that that was back in the 60s or back in the 1800s, but no, slavery was only 200 years ago, and racism has never died. So, I mean, we're dealing with it right now, and Colin Kaepernick obviously sees that, but clearly, the NFL doesn't see it. Today, I can't think of his name. On First Take, he called out some of the white NFL players who aren't standing up later on, but it's a lot going on right now in the U.S. with the White House. Phil, you had 1 death. You had the helicopter crash that killed 2 police officers. Now we have this terrorist attack in Barcelona. So it's just a lot going on, and definitely this thing in Charlottesville and other events, other white supremacist riots and protests in previous years definitely give credence to what Colin Kaepernick is saying by kneeling, and not only Colin Kaepernick, but Malcolm Jenkins, Michael Bennett, and Marshawn Lynch are saying.
Preach! I couldn't have said it better myself. Before we dive into any more of this, we're gonna let Matt do his baseball thing, and then we'll get back to it. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, let me back up. I'm gonna keep it short. I'm gonna keep this one short because it's kind of like it's going to run the hockey a little bit. But first, the hockey bit. Kudos to the Detroit Red Wings for looking to take legal action against a white supremacist group using their Detroit Red Wing logo. It is almost the exact same thing. The only difference is the inside of the wheel, the spokes of the wheel. So, with that being said, kudos to the Detroit Red Wings for pretty much letting everybody know they're not a part of it, want no parts of it, and is seeking legal action. Number 2. Meanwhile, the Phillies actually
Also, hold up. Before you finish, shouts out to the Tampa Bay Lightning for joining with the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Tampa Bay Rays to get rid of that Confederate statue that's in downtown Tampa. Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, and also kudos. Kudos. The Philadelphia Phillies instead, with the passing of Darren Daulton, which was pretty much one of my childhood heroes growing up, instead of what would have been Pete Rose's night, they turned the alumni weekend into a tribute to Darren Daulton, which, in a sense, was pretty timely in and of itself. So, I want to say rest in peace to Darren Daulton and his family. He did die from brain cancer, and we wish them our condolences to the family. Also, and as for the Phillies, Scott Kingery's here. Scott Kingery is here, and he already has like 2 home runs already. Dude, he is the real deal. Jorge Alfaro's up here too. The youth of the franchise, they're coming up. And I think Kingery's supposed to play some outfield because of Tommy Joseph. Kingery is the first baseman. So we'll see what happens because Tommy Joseph is who he is. But I expect some big things out of Kingery, honestly. He led all of the International League, which is AAA, on this side of the country, in home runs. So I expect a lot by next year to hopefully get out of this stinking rut that is Philadelphia.
All right. So we're gonna go into our one basketball topic before we get back into football because there's been a lot of football this week. So I know this is one close to Trey's heart. D Wade is getting a buyout. So, the rumor is that D Wade will be bought out by the Bulls before the week's out and into the weekend. So where is his next destination? Go ahead, Trey.
Cleveland. One word, Cleveland. Him and LeBron are great friends. To me, the best for Cleveland and for D Wade, the best spot is Cleveland, unless he thinks somewhere like Minnesota or maybe San Antonio, or even coming off the bench in Golden State. But if he goes to Minnesota, he'd be taking at a veteran minimum pretty much. And Minnesota, they have to get rid of. They have some bad contracts on the back end of their roster. Golden State really has no cap space whatsoever. Neither does Cleveland. But I feel like D Wade is an Eastern Conference guy all the way. I feel like he's kind of dedicated. Like you would think when he left Miami, okay, he goes to Chicago. He's from Chicago. Blah blah, all this, right? But it really would have made sense for him to go somewhere where he had a better chance of winning a fourth ring. But he decided to go to Chicago because that's where he's from. And I think now that he realizes in terms of his athleticism, his jump shooting, really, because he was never a great three-point shooter, but he's really lost all three-point touch. So as far as that goes, I feel like he understands that the best place will be somewhere where not only he's wanted, but he can play with players or a player, i.e. LeBron, who he's played with before, he's good friends with, they already have chemistry, there's not going to be any, you're not going to have to worry about with the exception of Kevin Love and Kyrie. But I feel like Cleveland is the best place for him, and I feel like he's going to lean that way. He even said it himself. He said, I think he got interviewed right after the report came out about the buyout, and he said, it would be stupid of me not to consider signing with Cleveland. And I feel like in his head, Cleveland is high up on his list. If Chicago does end up buying out his contract, they very well may not end up buying out his contract. But I think Chicago is about to go into full rebuild mode, and so I think they will buy out his contract because they know that with him on the roster, even if it's an old D Wade, he's still gonna fight and give. There's no way that they're gonna go out team in the league. Even with, D Wade is that good of a player that he's gonna push them to 35. 38 wins. So in order for them to really tank and rebuild, D-Wade is on the way out. Also, you got to think about the fact that they have Zach LaVine now, and he's their future shooting guard. It just, like I said, Cleveland, I'll leave it at that.
Go ahead, Matt.
Me don't have really much of an opinion about it, but as far as where D-Wade should end up, Cleveland would sound like a more ideal destination to go to, because of the familiar. Hold on, give me 1 second. The familiarity. I'm doing my hair talking same time. The familiarity between LeBron and D Wade and their days in Miami. I really like, as far as if Chicago's going full rebuild mode, it's best you should just blow it up right now and cut your losses and just go from there. It's up to what D-Wade wants to do as far as career is concerned, or even finish his career in Miami and call it for what it is. But contenders in the East, Cleveland won, but I don't see any other potential suitors other than them and possibly Minnesota with their bad contractual situations. So I don't have a dog in this race, so to speak, on it.
For 11 years, I've been a big D-Wade fan. Love D-Wade and everything else. And I think that, I know he'd be stupid not to consider Cleveland. I didn't know he said that, but it sounded like something he'd say. But I wanna submit this. D-Wade has always been known as a guy who gets people to come to see him. And I know he's older now, going on 35. But he still has a good 2-point shot. He never had a 3-point shot. But I would like to submit, he'd be stupid not to consider Cleveland because that's his best. That's where his best friend is, right? But I would consider that. I don't really think he'll go to Cleveland, mostly because I don't think that he's willing to take $2.1 million after being bought out and then receiving $36 million. But I could be wrong, right? So I think that there are three possibilities, right? I definitely think Cleveland might be top, right? But I have two that, in Miami, but I have one that's a dark horse that I think he would take. And they have the most cap in the East. Well, two really, but they have the most cap in the East, and there's somebody that can use him. And I know that people are gonna laugh, but remember, I called who this team would sign in the offseason. I think that he should consider going to the 76ers because we need a veteran shooting guard. I know we have JJ Redick, but let's be real. I'll take Dwayne Wade at his age right now to come in and help us and be a mentor to Ben Simmons and all of them because we need more people with rings in the 76ers organization. I know the coach has the rings, but we need a player with the rings. And I think that a shooting guard position is a position that we severely lack even with the addition of JJ Redick. So I want to submit that the Sixers right now have $14 to $16 million left of cap money to spend. Yes, they did not blow their load and spend all their money on JJ Redick, but they have $14 to $16 million to spend. And I think a 1 year, $8 to $10 million deal for D Wade would be great. And now probably have to shuffle some things around and bring JJ Redick off the bench. But I think that would be an idea. I know it's not an idea that has a strong possibility of happening, but I think that he should consider going to the 76ers because that's an up-and-coming team that he can really help with. And D Wade has 2 to 3 years left. So I think he could give a good year helping the Sixers with a playoff run and taking us, being that veteran player that gets us to the promised land and mentors Embiid, Saric, Okafor, and Simmons and our young core. And he can stay what he was in Miami, right? Or he can go back to Miami. Or this is the team that also needs a shooting guard. Or he could go to Boston, right? And Boston needs a shooting guard.
What the hell is wrong with you? What the hell is wrong with you?
Listen. As Trey said, he's an East Coast guy. He's not going to the West Coast. And I just want to know, would you rather have him as a Cavalier or be a Sixer or a Celtic? I know we hate the Celtics, but those are the two teams with cap space that can pay him what he wants and not the vet minimum.
Anywhere but Boston.
Right? So I think he should consider. Now, the two teams he's definitely considering are Cleveland and Miami. But I think a third team should be the 76ers. And I also think Boston. But for fandom and to be able to go to the Wells Fargo Center and see my favorite player with my other favorite Sixers would be great. So I'm going to say he should go to the 76ers. And I know they just paid JJ Redick. And I know somewhere Trey is shaking his head. But Dwayne Wade, just imagine it, Trey. Dwayne Wade as a Sixer. I know it's a long shot. I said it before I said it. But he should consider the Sixers. And I know Minnesota because he likes Jimmy Butler. But yeah, so yeah. Anybody else got anything to add? I know Trey probably does.
No, Trey? I mean, I agree with you saying. To be honest, I didn't really even think about the Sixers. The Sixers make sense, but at the same time, because they're not a championship contender, it doesn't really make sense for him to go there. I mean, as much as I would like to see him play for the Sixers, it just wouldn't really make much sense because if I'm him at 30, he's 34 now. I think he's turning 35 or 36. I can't remember how old he is. I mean, he needs to go somewhere where there's an immediate chance of winning a championship this coming season. So.
And inside the cap.
Okay. Well, all right. So moving along to our football topics, y'all. We're gonna hit these topics. By the way, the Eagles just won. They're 1-1 in the preseason now. So yeah, breaking news on that. Let's go. Where we going? Oh, should Roger Goodell and Hugh Jackson really be telling players how to protest? Floor is yours, Matt. Matt? Okay. I don't know what's going on with Matt. Trey, go ahead.
As far as I haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't really kept up with um what Roger Goodell and Hugh Jackson have said. I kind of glanced at some articles about it, but the NFL needs to uh, I don't know how I want to put this. The NFL is a business, right? And so they have an image that they want to portray, and I don't know. It's like, um, it's like I just don't see the NFL and people outside of the NFL have this thing about the way people are protesting. Malcolm Jenkins protest, Marshawn Lynch recently during a preseason game in which I don't believe he played. He was sitting down during the national anthem. You had Michael Bennett sitting down during the national anthem, I believe. And I mean, to be honest, I don't really care what Roger Goodell thinks because I'm not a big fan of Roger Goodell. Now, Hugh Jackson, I've always kind of liked Hugh Jackson, but you know, I don't have like if somebody says to me, maybe you should try protesting this way, or try doing this, or um, you know, that's one thing, but um, it's it's interesting how people want to tell somebody how to protest, but don't really think about, and ironically, Hugh Jackson of all people, um, he's a black coach in the NFL. Um, you know, it just like if you can tell, I'm out of words because it just doesn't make sense to even bother criticizing or telling someone to protest in a different way. Um, if Colin Kaepernick and these other guys who protest had gotten up and stolen the mic from whoever was singing the national anthem, and that was their protest, I could see Roger Goodell standing up and giving them a fine or forcing their individual team to give them a fine. But that's not what happened. They sat on the sideline or kneeled on the sideline to protest to protest justice. Or excuse me, not to protest justice, but to protest injustice in America. So just the thought of somebody like it just doesn't make any sense, like to even think that way or to tell someone, you know, you shouldn't protest this way, or maybe you should try it this way, or blah blah blah, or to even say that it's disrespectful to the American flag. It's a flag, people. It's a flag. I mean, flags may be symbols or may portray a message, but it's a flag. And the national anthem was written by a racist, a slave owner. So, I mean, for what reason do we need, as black people in particular, to pledge allegiance to a flag that, you know, into a country that, I mean, for years hasn't really done much for us? Um, Pretty much everything in terms of success has come from the hard work of our parents, ourselves, our ancestors, and their ancestors. Um, working hard as slaves. You know, going to civil rights marches and that type of stuff. And the fact that a nonviolent, silent, almost unseen protest becomes this controversial thing is just amazing to me, because if you think about this, right? On the sidelines at a football game, right? There's usually a lot going on, right? Typically, if you watch an NFL football game, you don't really pay attention to what's going on the sidelines, right? You don't really think about maybe you see something going on the sidelines, but for the most part, you're not paying attention to what's going on the sidelines. And the broadcasters are not really showing the sidelines. They may show the coach for a little bit if they're talking about him. If the people in the are broadcast or not broadcasting, the whoever's talking, they might be talking about the coach or whatever, so they might show him up close on the sideline. Well, for the most part, the field is what they're showing. So, I mean, if you think about how people are finding out that people are kneeling and sitting down, this leads me to believe that clearly there's media on the sideline and they have an agenda that they want to push. And then you have Roger Goodell, who clearly, I know you guys aren't fans of him. I don't know. It's just a bunch of nonsense to me.
All right, we're gonna try Matt again. Matt, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I just had to get something. What's it about, Goodell now? What do you want?
Goodell and Hugh Jackson telling people how to protest.
They both need to be pimp slapped, and they need to have several rows. Sit down and have a seat. You can't tell them about how they should protest. You know what? If you're telling someone how to protest things or this, that, and the third, there's something wrong with you. That says your conscience is guilty. Okay, look, I personally asked some people around, in my travels about it, like how you should protest. Well, some people believe, well, you shouldn't be protesting a football game because I understand that watching football it kind of gives you like at least 3 hours, if not a whole entire day of taking our minds off the world for the most part. Let's backtrack this. I think it was a few years. It was like a few years ago, where this is an ESPN broadcast. They're broadcasting the Mets and the Phillies, and people on their smart. People got notifications on the smartphone saying, and the news was the fact that there were reports that Bin Laden was killed, and the broadcasters couldn't. You really can't say what really happened, what's going on, but they didn't know themselves what was going on. And you hear the chant of USA, USA, USA. So that's one act of they weren't protesting, but to give you the point of at a baseball game, they know what's going on. The timing was kind of spontaneous, but it felt right. This, however, there is no right time. There is no right time, or this is the moment type of thing when it comes down to something like this. If you're being screwed over long enough, you're going to say something. You're going to do something. You're going to bring it to the attention. And unfortunately, albeit on a football game, or pregame for that matter, if it's there, it's there. In fact, a lot of veterans who spoke up, most veterans pretty much were in favor of what Cap did. And they say, that's exactly what they fought for. It's if they had the opportunity to still would do the same thing. I mean, the fact that he did what he did, the vets, Afghani vets, Iraqi vets, Persian Gulf, Vietnam, even me personally meeting a World War II veteran 2 weeks ago. The fact that I was shaking like African American man in his 90s, a World War II vet. I mean, for me, it's like I got to give kudos to you, sir. Because without that, we wouldn't have the freedoms that we have today to protest and speak our minds and say what's right and what's wrong and agree to disagree. But to tell somebody what you can and cannot protest at what times is the worst thing you can do, because it shows, to me, indifference and intolerance. It shows that your sensitivities have heightened, which means also it shows that there's something deep inside that's rocked your core, and you know you want to do something about it, but you can't, out of fear or wherever feelings that you may have. So, you know, I get it and I understand it, but I'm sorry to tell you, there is no convenient. You cannot protest out of convenience. There's no such thing as protesting out of convenience. You're protesting because there's an injustice being done, and it needs to be brought to the attention to those watching or listening or wherever have you. The attention needs to be brought out, and it's not ever going to be convenient. Never.
Yes. Let me just say this, right? Just to be clear, right? We are people who you know, Roger Goodell, the commissioner, and everything, but you know, he has. I have a problem with him trying to be judge, jury, and executioner, and you know, I have multiple problems with Goodell. Now, Hugh Jackson, he's not a coach of my NFL team. He does good work from what I hear, but I think this is one of them times where, you know, he's some people just sully themselves in the name of extreme patriotism, right? That's the new term for it. Extreme patriotism, right? And so, you know, Hugh Jackson, you know, I don't really, outside of being a good coach, I don't really know him for anything. You know, they say he's a good coach, but the quote that he said, in which, you know, he said that, you know, he can't stop his players from doing it, but he hopes they don't do it, right? Now, Trey and Matt weighed in on this, but Trey didn't really, but I think he would agree with the statement as well. We cannot ask these athletes to continue to be robots. See, this is the problem with most sports. Now, the NFL has a very conservative background because the football was created at West Point, so it's a conservative sport. It's more conservative.
Baseball's worse
than the other sport, right? And so you cannot. We have this mentality, and I see where it comes from now when I see people like Roger Goodell and Hugh Jackson say this, right? And I spoke about this before. Trey and Matt weren't here yet, but you know, I said that, you know, we can't ask these players to be robots. And football, more than any other sports besides basketball, it seems like we have a lot of fans and a lot of people in power that want these athletes to just stick to sport. First off, NFL, in a league, Roger Goodell and Hugh Jackson, in a league that's 60 to 70% black, you can't ask these players after what just happened 3 days, almost 4 days ago, to go back to just say, yes, sir, I won't talk about it today. No. We are way past that. Soon as the Miami Heat players put on hoodies in reverence and honor to Trayvon Martin, we've been past this point for 3 years. We've been past this point for a long time, but really that's the turning point of when athletes started getting more involved in social issues. Was what the Miami Heat did, right? And we're past this point now where we can tell these people, just stick to sports, just make your money, man. Just you make your money playing games that we just played in schoolyards. Just make your money and shut up. No. We're past this point. See, nobody. Matt points this out. Nobody texts you and says, you know what? When can we protest? What time are you not going to work? And when will it be okay to protest? No, the purpose of a protest is to make you uncomfortable, to make you feel people. Martin Luther King said, rioting, and this is not about rioting, but just to show you the stance on rioting. Rioting is the voice of the oppressed. People riot when you oppress them, right? So I think it's time that we start listening and stop hindering these athletes, because these athletes have friends that live in the local community. Chris Long and his family grew up in Charlottesville. You think you're going to keep him quiet on things that happen in my hometown? This is like when something goes down in Philadelphia. You think I'm going to stay quiet no matter how big I get in media, no matter how much they tell me, oh, you can't have an opinion? Heck yeah, I'm going to have an opinion when stuff happens in my city. You can't not have an opinion. You can't keep telling people stick to sports while then advertising NFL, the community relations stuff that they do. Look, they signed autographs for the children's hospital and stuff like that. Not saying that those things are bad, but you can't tell people when to protest. You can't tell people when to serve. You can't tell people a lot of things. And we've been letting sports leagues like the NFL get away with this for way too long. These athletes are not robots. You cannot tell them when to protest, black, white, or whatever, because you are hindering their protest. And shame on you, Roger Goodell. Shame on you, Hugh Jackson. I know you both benefit from the fact that the military's been paying y'all for 8 years now to broadcast the national anthem and to make the players stand up. But nah, this is way past that, right? These athletes, no, you can't tell people when to protest. You can't tell people how to protest. I'm so sick of seeing that. Let these athletes live. Let these athletes make their statements. Let these athletes do what they can to speak up on Charlottesville. Don't hinder these athletes. Don't hinder these athletes. All right, moving right along to our next topic. This will be the only, well, one or two, but of Eagles topics. But our reaction to the Jordan Matthews trade. Go ahead, Matt.
Reaction. Surprised. I mean, the fact that the fact that the chemistry between Wentz and Matthews from last season, I thought was like impressive, and I thought, well, that's something to build off of. I don't know what the Eagles saw. I don't know what the Eagles were thinking, but they know better than we do, so they shipped them out. And believe it or not, I think and it's crazy, we dodged a bullet. We dodged a major bullet because of the injury to his sternum. So in a sense, as an Eagle fan, we're counting our blessings on that one. We really are, because imagine if that happened to us. And the reaction in this town would have been, how can I say this? Not good. Just more of like scared and, OMG, what we're going to do and everything else. So, and then the fact, I think we're watching some of the game today, the fact that he got a pick, he got a pick, and almost a pick six. He got, wrong side. He got a pick, he got a pick today, and he jumped a route. Hey, you know what? We need a lot of depth at that quarterback position. It's a position that we've been getting burnt on by the defense. So to see that we're addressing that need is fine. Plus, we have an abundance of receivers to begin with. So what that means? No, for the most part, you know what? I'm not saying I'm shocked or perplexed, but it's like, you know what? Intriguing. I'm intrigued. I want to see where this goes. Let's see where this goes. That's all I'm looking at. So let's see where this goes, because you know what? The fact that we got a corner that can pretty much we have depth at the corner position should be a interesting move. Yeah.
Trey?
As far as my thoughts go on the Jordan Matthews trade, I think it was it was a good trade in the sense that cornerback was a need that we had, and Ronald Darby, although he had a rocky second year in the NFL last year, he did play very, very well in his rookie year. And I think it was a good trade as far as that goes, because you got potentially, a good starting quarterback for the next 6-7 years. Jordan Matthews didn't seem like he was going to improve any more than what he had already shown us. And he's not a bad player for, I think last year he had some, he dropped the ball a lot, but I think there was maybe some not mental issues. I think there was some confidence issues going on. And I think, as far as we know, Jordan Matthews is going to be a solid player for the rest of his career. But it just won't be on the Eagles. I think the one thing that they gave up, they gave up Jordan Matthews and the third round for Ronald Darby. I feel like they should have tried to get back like a fourth or a fifth, maybe even a sixth round pick back. But they didn't. And if Ronald Darby, and it looks like he might turn out to be a very solid cornerback for us, then I'm totally fine with not getting a draft pick back, because they got a formidable starting cornerback in Ronald Darby.
Let me just say, I'm happy that the Eagles got a number one cornerback. I'm just a little and a little bit salty, I'd say, about the fact that they traded one of our most consistent wide receivers. Now I know you have to give a little to get a lot, but I really do think that they gave away in Jordan Matthews a solid wide receiver. And the reason I say that is because I like it. I saw what Darby did during the preseason. I'm very excited for him. He seems like he's going to be the real deal, and I'm glad that we have him for 2 years, maybe longer, depending on if we can re-sign him or not. But I just, as I look at Jordan Matthews, and listen, I know that the reason they got rid of him was because they got Alshon Jeffrey, and we have to re-sign Alshon Jeffrey, and we can only use the franchise tag on a couple of players in one position. So I fully understand why they got rid of Jordan Matthews. But my concern for the Eagles is this, right? And even as we've seen in this preseason game, our two wide receivers, Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey, right? They're both injury prone. Alshon Jeffrey hasn't played a full season in 3 years. Torrey Smith, he doesn't really get injured a lot, but his production's been going down for 3 seasons. Now, that may be because, he played with the 49ers the last 3 years, and that was horrible. And, and I'm not poo-pooing the free agencies. I'm just saying that I think that if something happens, because you never know what can happen during the season. So if something happens to Alshon or Torrey Smith, what I'm worried about is relying on Nelson Agholor and Mac Hollins. I think is the real deal. I think Mac Hollins will supplant Agholor and be the reason why we get rid of Agholor come next year too. So I think Matt Hollins will be solid, but I am a little bit worried just because of Alshon Jeffrey's history of getting injured. I'm a little bit worried that Aguilar may be thrown from the slot where he is the best good at. I won't say the best at, to the second receiver and be called on the outside, that he'll feel pressure again. And we've seen what happens when that man has pressure on him. He folds. Now, I believe that the Eagles made a good trade. I think Darby's going to be good. I'm glad that we got our defense solidified. I'm just a little bit worried about the offensive side and our O-line, but the O-line has nothing to do with this Jordan Matthews trade. So I was surprised. I'm excited, but I really am concerned just on our depth at wide receiver, because I know most of those wide receivers won't actually play. We run like 4 or 5 wide receivers. So I'm a little bit concerned about who that wide receiver is going to be if something happens to Torrey Smith or Alshon Jeffrey. But, good for the Eagles, good for Howie for making a pick, getting us the number 1 corner, and maybe even getting us to the playoffs. I'm not there yet. But, I think that we've made some inroads and we've shored up the weakest position that we have on our team. So kudos, Howie. Kudos. Now, if you could just get a second round and a third round pick, I'll be even more happy. Right now, we only have a first, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. And we need second and third round picks. But I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. If you would have told me that all we had to do to get a number 1 cornerback is give away a third round pick and give away Jordan Matthews, I would have been all like, why Jordan Matthews? But, Howie knows more than I do. I'm happy. I'm happy that the Eagles got a number 1 cornerback, as Matt said. All right, y'all. So moving right along. We're on our last 2 questions. Back to our last Eagles question. So Malcolm Jenkins has come out. He's going to continue to protest the national anthem by raising the Black Power fist. And it turns out that he has the full support of owner Jeff Lurie. So guys, the question is, should other owners follow Lurie's example? Go ahead, Matt.
You know what? You have to admit, Jeffrey Lurie, though he drives us nuts sometimes, he's one of the most progressive owners in the NFL. I have to admit, as an Eagles fan, for him to run this organization the way he's running his organization, I mean, you have to admit, it is one of the most classy organizations in the NFL. I mean, they're up there with the Patriots. The only difference is, Super Bowl wins, but they're up there with one of the best organizations. Look, this is the same organization that took in Michael Vick, gave him a chance, and look how he turned down his football career. I mean, literally, you don't hear a peep about anyone from this team. I mean, other than that, Terrell Owens fiasco, but other than that, this team has pretty much had a more, I won't say no nonsense, but has been ahead of the curve as far as trying to do things with the community. They're the Eagles have the most, they're the best in the league as far as community outreach programs and stuff like that, with the building playgrounds, the youth foundation. I don't think that their iMobile out in the area, but for them for Jeffrey Lurie to allow the Eagles to pretty much voice their opinions is I think is very forward thinking. I'm glad that Malcolm Jenkins is going to continue to salute this Black Power salute. I think it's a testament to the owner. And also, think about this. The fact that Chris Long spoke out of those events in Charlottesville and everything else, it shows, the culture that this team has. So, Jeffrey Lurie even though he drives us insane as Eagle fans, you have to admit he's a very forward and progressive thinker. He wants to win just as much as anybody else, even though he has a funny way of showing it. But I have to admit, I have to agree, that by him letting Malcolm Jenkins and others follow suit with the Black Power salute and everything else, I think it's a very very progressive way of looking at it, and to have the owner support it is giving the team more confidence to express themselves and also have more of a unified team versus being divisive like we've seen in San Francisco.
Trey, go ahead.
As far as Jeffrey Lurie goes, I applaud him in his support of Malcolm Jenkins and other players who are protesting. And does this mean that other owners have to come out and support? Not necessarily. I think it would be good for them to do that in solidarity with their players. But I don't think. Excuse me. I don't think they have to. I mean, as long as they make it known to their players, their staff, if they truly are in support, if they make that known to their players, I think that's good enough. I don't necessarily think that it needs to be made public. And but as far as that goes, I mean, if they want to make it public for the fans' sake, then that's fine. And maybe this will start, just as Colin Kaepernick protesting kind of sparked the movement of players protesting. Maybe this will, what Jeffrey Lurie did will spark a movement of owners publicly stating their, their support of either their players or other players who have protested currently or in the past. And maybe that's what will happen. I don't know, but I don't think it's not necessary that every NFL player or NFL owner come out, because I mean I highly doubt that every NFL player, but every NFL owner even would sympathize with what Jeffrey Lurie is saying. I think Jeffrey Lurie, if I'm not mistaken, he is Jewish, and so I think he can kind of sympathize, or not. Well, how you empathize with the situation of Black American minorities in the United States, and so I would imagine that if other owners feel it necessary, they will take it upon themselves to make a public statement or come out and publicly support Colin Kaepernick or whoever else is protesting, and even maybe make a statement about Charlottesville. So that's what I think.
I think that I agree with Matt and Trey. I applaud and congratulate Jeff Lurie for standing by his players, and it kind of confirms my thoughts. We voiced these thoughts in this podcast before, that the Eagles were looking for a quarterback and backup quarterback, or an actual starting quarterback, that Colin Kaepernick will be on the team. Unfortunately, one of the players in need, Philadelphia is very much stacked in the position that he plays. But I fully support Jeff Lurie, and I feel like more owners should come out and, if nothing else, just because how we have owners that are very, very boisterous in their disdain and why I wouldn't say disdain, in their reasons for why they don't want Colin Kaepernick on their team. Looking at you, Mara and the Giants and Woody Johnson. I think that there should be owners that also come out. Maybe it's privately, maybe it's publicly, maybe it's through their players, giving their players permission to tell people in the news media that, my owner allows me to raise my fist during the national anthem. He doesn't really have a problem with it. Just like Jeff Lurie did. He didn't actually state it. He allowed Malcolm Jenkins to go on the news conference and say that, he has the full support of the owner. So, more stuff, more things like that, because, in this day and age, it's good to know that you have, and I put this on Facebook attached to this thing because, I juxtaposed this to this, and Trey and Matt may have seen it in their various Facebook feeds, but there's this fake James Harrison quote going around in which this news site, it's a country news site, made up a quote from James Harrison in which he said that, in which they report that he said that, if anybody ever stood up for the anthem in Pittsburgh, he would beat their behind, so they better be in a wheelchair, right? But it turns out that was a fake quote, right? And I juxtaposed that with that fake quote to say, this is still a thing. Like, people are still concerned, even before the Charlottesville happened, are concerned about whether these athletes stand for the anthem or not. And I put on Facebook that, it's great to see an owner, because it's not, good owners aren't determined by the number of rings or titles they win, right? They're determined by what they do for the players when the circumstances call for things to be done outside of the sports world. And just his support really lends credence to the fact that Jeffrey Lurie is one of the best owners in the NFL. I don't care if he has a ring or not. I hope he gets a ring, and I hope we do win rings for what he's done for players, for giving players like Michael Vick a chance, for allowing Malcolm Jenkins and other players to continue to kneel, raise their right fist, do whatever they want to do for the anthem, and continue to have his players back and to represent the city of Philadelphia well, right? It's very seldom that we have owners that understand the city and the players like the Eagles. I think the reason why the Eagles are one of the most popular teams in this area is because the Eagles really are that team. Not saying that all our teams don't do this, but they're the teams that really, they feel like they represent Philly, right? Blue collar, do work hard, always blunt, do what we got to do to survive. That's Philly, right? And just to have an owner that gets that allows players to do that is amazing. And, it's great. More owners need to do it. More owners need to find a way to get through the noise of owners that don't want to support what Colin Kaepernick did, don't like having players that are not, that don't just play sports and shut up. We need more players. We need more owners like a Jeff Lurie, who doesn't have to state that he supports. He does it by his actions. Actions speak louder than words, right? This is why I feel such disgust with some of these owners, because, some of them, like Jeff Lurie, and different teams, they own teams where they don't have a need at quarterback. But there are owners that aren't saying anything but dictate by their actions that they support the other owners who have been more vocal about keeping things the way they are, keeping things conservative and not pissing off other forms of the audience, right? And I think that more owners need to be like Jeff Lurie and say, I got the money's coming regardless, and I want these players. I want to have different players than everybody else. I don't want robots. I want real people. I totally and stridently and ardently support Jeff Lurie, and I am proud of him for standing by his players like Malcolm Jenkins and continue to show the NFL that we have one of the best things in Philadelphia is the Eagles and the fact that they represent the city. Not many people can say that they have a team that stridently and ardently represents their city. And we can say that. And that starts at the top with Jeff Lurie, who stands by his players. And that is great. We talked about this with the NFL and how they're not sticking with their players, but having owners that stick with their players, aces. He's aces in my book. Moving right along. It was a good segue. So guys, is there, based on, Trey and Matt alluded to this earlier, Marshawn Lynch, Michael Bennett, and others are protesting the anthem, Michael Jenkins included. So is there an anthem protest movement beginning in the NFL? Go ahead, Trey.
It's funny that this is the next topic. I had one of my high school teachers. He was my theology teacher. Great guy. Some very interesting political views, most of which I disagree with. But he was mentioning he has his own website and YouTube page, and so he has a very wide following. If you guys want to, it's called Turley Talks. You guys can check it out. His name is Stephen Turley or Steve Turley. You can just look him up on Facebook. But I was watching a video. He was talking about Charlottesville, and he mentioned how Donald Trump pointed out, today it's Robert E. Lee, tomorrow it's Thomas Jefferson, the next day it's George Washington, and then he, ironically, that we're talking about this, but the national anthem is, and I think I mentioned this earlier, was written by Francis Scott Key, and Francis Scott Key actually was a slave owner. If you look at the whole Star Spangled Banner song, I believe it's 5 stanzas.
4 stanzas.
4 stanzas. It's not as inspiring, especially to Black people, as it may seem. And I think it's a very real thing right now that because as of now, Colin Kaepernick, Malcolm Jenkins, they're not really protesting the national anthem so much. They're, like I said, I won't repeat what I said, but they're protesting that. They're protesting the Black disenfranchisement and hypocrisy in America. And it just so happens that the method by which they do that includes sitting down or kneeling during a national anthem that was written by a slave owner, and I think it's a very real thing that you'll see a protest of the national anthem. I think that because the national, I like a statue is temporary, right? That's removable. It can be put in a museum or destroyed altogether. The national anthem, however, I can see a protest of it, but I can't see it being removed or changed. And for, to be honest, I don't think there's a reason to do that. Although I didn't like the fact that Donald Trump kind of walked back his comments about, condemning what happened in Charlottesville. I do hear what he's saying, though. Today it's Robert E. Lee, tomorrow it's Thomas Jefferson, it's George Washington, and to be honest, I feel like taking down these statues is not really going to do much, right? Protesting the national anthem itself is not going to do nothing. And changing the national anthem, that's not really going to do much. That's not going to end racism. And do I have a problem with them taking down the national, these statues? Go ahead. If you're going to take down those statues, though, you're going to have to take down a lot of statues, because there's other statues, not only of, our founding fathers, who most of which owned slaves. You've got a lot of other statues of people like Lenin in the United States as well. So those statues, if these statues of, founding fathers come down, then there's other statues that need to come down as well. But that's not going to solve, the issue. And but I do think that there will be a movement of a protest against the national anthem, or I don't know how effective it will be or what the outcome of it will be, but I do see that coming.
All right, watch this. Now here you go. These monuments were up during around the 40s, if not the 50s. Not out of reverence or historical significance. It was there to scare the living crap out of us, people of color. That was its intended purpose, to let you know that white America is scary. It is supreme, and we will use these relics. Which, oh, by the way, these men lost a war. It was used not basically it was used to scare. It was a scare tactic. You can, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's wild, man. It's everything right now, So I think this is going to begin the national anthem movement. As I said, with the NFL dictating to these players what to do, how they can protest and everything, I really do think that there's a movement now, especially now that Colin Kaepernick is out of the league. So far, I think that there is a movement now to do something drastic to get the NFL to do stuff and to get people to feel that these players are not just robots. Sure, they like playing the game and they love their country, but you need to use, as Matt said earlier, you need to use your platform. And some of these players have a very, very good and big platform. And it's not just going to needs to be the African American players. It needs to be players speaking up. Like Chris Long, he's been mentioned a lot. He spoke up. More players need to do that. Speak up. Speak up about the issues. Help your fellow human beings, because there's no such thing as race. It's just a human race. Help your fellow human beings. This stuff is wrong. Do something about it. The national anthem is, as Trey said, it has some historical things and historical miscalculations. It was written by somebody who owned slaves and everything. And it just needs to be said that this country has a very, very horrible history with race, and we need to change that. And the best way is going to start with all of us uniting to say we condemn neo-Nazis, KKK, racism, and that we're actually going to do stuff not just to eliminate the outside racists, the people that let you know that they're racist, but we're going to do more to help with the institutions and everything. And if that takes Marshawn Lynch and Michael Bennett sitting down in the anthem and people asking them why they're sitting down, if that's what that takes to change the fact that African Americans, there's no statistical significance that African Americans commit as much crimes as white people, but jails overflowing with African Americans. 15% of population, 60% of the 60 to 75% of the jail population, right? Unequal sentencing. There needs to be. We need to start to a movement needs to happen. And if it takes them sitting down for that to happen, so be it. But yes, I do think that there is a protest movement beginning in the NFL, and I think the NFL is going to regret the day that they didn't help or facilitate Colin Kaepernick getting a job. And I definitely think that Marshawn Lynch and Michael Bennett are only the beginning. They're just the tests. but they're only the beginning. I think come September 16th, the league will be seeing a lot of these types of protests. So yeah, that was our show. You know, Crossover Sports Podcast episode 45 is in the books. I want to thank Trey and Matt for coming in on such short notice on Thursday. Unfortunately, one of us had a time issue where we wouldn't have been able to do the podcast tomorrow, so I had to be tomorrow, so I had to be moved up a day. But I want to thank them. Amina was here earlier. Unfortunately, something was up with her connection, or something was up with the system, and it kicked her off. But I want to thank them for always being down, always being there and ready to rock out. I want to thank you guys for listening. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Pray for safe travels for myself. I have to go to California on Sunday. So just send some prayers and good thoughts my way as I spend the first couple of days of this week in California for some business. Definitely thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great weekend. Deuces.